Makam karoti vachalam pungam lankayati shrim tatam vande yatkripa tatam vande shikantina tarinam Amajnana timandasyajananjana slapya sakshvamiritam yena tasmai shri gurave namah. Namo Vihe-Bhaktivedanta Sapastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharani Nirvasesa Singhavadi Bhaskatya Desatarani Srila Prabhupada Ki. Today we start a new chapter, the swelling of the forest fire, the second forest fire. But commentaries are quite different. But we'll start with reading text 1. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Narayanam Namaskritam Naram Cheva Narottanam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jamudyayat Nastve Savatrasu Nityam Bhagavata Sevya Bhagavata Tamaske Bhakti Bhakti Naistri. So, Canto 10, Chapter 9, verses 1 to 10, and we will try to finish this chapter today, which counts 16 verses only. So, text 1. So, the forest fire. Shri Shuka Ovacha Keda Sakte Sugopeshu Tat Kavo Docharini Svaram Sarantyo Vivisus Trinalabe Nagafaram. Sukadev Goswami said, while the cowboys were completely absorbed in playing, these cows wandered far away. They hungered for more grass, and with no one to watch them, they entered a dense forest. So, we have a commentary from Sanatana Goswami. At the time, I must say at the time when Bhujan Prabhu was reading these commentaries, they were just translated, or not long before translated by Bhanu Swami. And these translations were very rough, and you have heard that probably, that sentences are not properly formed and so on. It's a very rough translation. But then later on, these were edited. And I have now also the edited version, so I will read from the edited version from next chapter onwards. That these commentaries are in a book called Brihad Vaishnava Toshani Sanatana Goswami. So I just wanted to mention that because these commentaries, the language is all sometimes difficult to understand. But here Sanatana Goswami on this first text gives an interesting commentary. He compares these cows which are wandering to the forest with those who are greedy for sense enjoyment and get in trouble. So he writes, coincidentally, even though the Lord is acting in an ordinary way, another separate worldly pastime occurred. Although they had been protected by the Supreme Personality of Godhead who is close by, yet out of greed for sense enjoyment, they wandered far away from Him. Such is understood as unspoken implication. Nevertheless, because of the greatness of his mercy, very soon their welfare will be assured, as we will see further on, of course. Text 2. Ajagava maisyasya nirvishantyo vanat vanam ishikatavim nirvivisu katyanto davadakshita. Translation. Passing from one part of the great forest to another, the goats, cows and buffalo eventually entered an area overgrown with sharp canes. The heat of a nearby forest fire made them thirsty, and they cried out of distress. Sanatan Goswami points out that the particular order of description of the goats, cows and buffaloes are in order because of the order they travel with their relative speeds. That Davena means by the forest fire, or else they have been made thirsty by the heat of the sun, remembering the hot season, which was just like fire, and therefore they were crying out of distress. This are Sanatan Goswami's observations. Text 3. Te pasantya pasun gopa Krishna Rama dayastata Jananuta pana vidur vichim vantu gavam gatim. Translation. Not seeing the cows before them, Krishna, Ram and their coward friends suddenly felt repentant for having neglected them. The boys searched all around but could not discover where they had gone, so they were playing all the time and they just forgot about the cows. But the cows was their service. They didn't see the cows and they felt frightened. The boys could not discover where did they go. Sanatan Goswami says, Sri Krishna is mentioned first because Balaram, because of being especially eager for novelty, Balaram is his follower, or else the mobility to see the cows on the part of two of them, the inability to see the cows on the part of two of them, because by nature they like very much to enjoy adventures, that's Sanatan Goswami, and especially to inspire a sense of wonder in such personalities as Sri Sukadev, who are students of their pastimes. So Sanatan Goswami said Krishna and Balaram arranged for this pastime in that way, to create wonder in the hearer of the pastime. So Krishna is thinking about us also when he performs the pastime. Because Sri Krishna does wonderful things so that devotees can be inspired and study them. And Sanatan Goswami said, or else, because they were so much entangled with the cows and other animals, that out of affection for them, they lost their proper sense. Jiva Goswami, he also comments. He says the words Krishna Ramadaya indicates that Krishna will be absorbed in these pastimes. And Krishna will be absorbed in these pastimes, and it will reveal his special qualities. Being remorseful, they could not understand their own position, that this could occur because of their love for their cows, and their knowledge of their own positions became covered over. Of course, Krishna is omniscient, he knows everything, he knows where the cows are, but it's covered over for the pastime. If the cows are missing, how do you find them again? How do we find cows again if they are missing? You listen to their mooing and you look for their hoof prints. So, text 4. Krishnaistatgura dakshiner gospader ankiter gavam margam amvagamam sarve nastachivya vishetasa. Then the boys began tracing out the cow's path by noting their hoof prints and the blades of grass of the cows had broken with their hoofs and teeth. All the cowherd boys were in great anxiety because they had lost their source of livelihood. So they are afraid because they were thinking, when we are going back to the village, we will be chastised very strongly. And they were depending on the cows for everything. So Sridhar Swami comments, by grasses that have been broken by the hoofs and the teeth of those cows, and by places on the ground which were marked by the footprints, or else the grasses that were marked by the footprints, they found the path of the cows. Yeah, and Sanatana Goswami says, and they became nasta avijay shetasaha. They became in anxiety because they had lost their livelihood. Because since by their very nature, when they act in these pastimes of tending cows, they assume, adopt the characteristic of depending on the cows. So Krishna and Balaram adopt that mood completely. They are depending on the cows. Or else they became just like persons who has lost their mind because of losing their livelihood. Nevertheless, they search out the path of the cows, and by looking at the footprints that have been produced at the shore of the Yamuna and other places. Now, text 5. Manchatavyam brastamargam kadamanam svagodanam samprapya trishita shantas tataste sanyavartayam. Within the Munya forest, the cowherd boys finally found their valuable cows, who had lost their way and were crying. Then the boys, thirsty and tired, herded the cows into the path back home. So, Bandiravan is further away. The Munya forest is a subforest in that area. So they were herding them. Now it was time for them to go back after the day. Sanatana Goswami comments, they're finding them perfectly by all good fortune. So finding them, the cows, perfectly by all good fortune, still together in one place. They properly turned the cows back quickly, and keeping them together from the Munya, the forest of canes. Munya is the forest of canes. The cows and other animals were thirsty and so tired of wandering around so much within the Kunya forest. Text 6. Taha uta bhagavata megagambhiraya gira svananam nidanam shutva pratinedu praharshita. The Supreme Personality of Godhead called out to animals in a voice that resounded like a rumbling cloud. Hearing the sound of their own names, the cows were overjoyed and called out to the Lord in reply. So that's interesting. This verse does not seem in order, as it explains how the cowherd boys found the calves. Santat Goswami, he says this verse describes the details how they found the cows. It is also described how the transcendental crown jewel of all cowherd boys, Sri Krishna, satisfied the cows by calling out their names, and by hearing their own names, they were enlivened by that sound. Krishna called their names. Also, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur comments. It is stating about finding them, and now it is replied to the inquiry how that has been done. Showing himself, he let the cows all see him, and they responded satisfied that Krishna was calling them by their names. But of course, just as everything went so nicely and the difficulty had been resolved, something terrible happened. Something that caused danger to all the cows and the cowherd boys. Text 7. Tasa samantat tavadu maketur yatrit shayabut shayakrit vanokasam samsirita saratinol bo banol mukter vilelehanas tirjankamanahmahan. Tata then, Samantha, on all sides, suddenly, Dharma-Dhumaketu, a terrible forest fire. Adbhut, it appeared. Kshaya, threatening destruction, they were going to destroy by that fire. Vana-Ukasham, for all those present in the forest, trees, animals, everything. And it was Samirita, it was driven Saratina by chariot driver, the wind. Ulbana, it was terrible, it was like meteor-like. So, translation. Suddenly, a great forest fire appeared on all sides, threatening to destroy all the forest creatures. Like a chariot driver, the wind swept the fire onwards, and terrible sparks shot in all directions. Indeed, the great fire extended its tongues on flame toward all moving and non-moving creatures. Purport. Just as Krishna, Balaram and the cowherd boys were about to take their cows back home, the forest fire previously mentioned raged out of control and surrounded all of them. So I hope no one of you will ever experience that, to be surrounded by a forest fire. Surely terror enters the heart. I will read the comment of Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur on text 7 from Sarartha Darshini. Just as Krishna and Balaram and the cowherd boys were about to take their cows back home, a terrible forest fire, Dava Dhumaketu, raged out of control and surrounded them. It is said that this fire was actually a friend of Pralamba. Like a chariot driver, Saratini, the wind whipped the fire into fierce flames. So, a friend of Pralamba, wat is vanaf vocês. So, the special characteristics of the residents of Vrindavan is that each and every one of them has no other shelter other than Krishna. They were in an extremely dangerous condition, surrounded by the forest fire, with the wind whipping the flames into a fierce wall of fire, and they were the cows, the goats, the buffaloes, the cowherd boys, and Balaram and Krishna. They were there in the midst of this circle of fire. Just imagine what was going on through their minds. We can't, of course, imagine the mood of these Brajavasis. But we can understand their hearts, their consciousness, and immediately they fully turned to Krishna. Their consciousness was already fixed on Krishna, but now the intensity increased. So, why were they so afraid? That text 9. Text 8, I mean. Tat apatantam parito davachnim Gopasagava prasamikshya bita Ohussa Krishnam Sabalam papana Yata harimrityu Payachtita jana. As the cows and cowherd boys stared at the forest fire attacking them at all sides, they became fearful. The boys then approached Krishna and Balaram for shelter, just as those who are disturbed by fear of death approached the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The boys addressed them as follows. That text. So, before we hear their pleas of the cowherd boys, we will hear the commentary of Sanatan Goswami on this 8th verse. He writes, seeing the forest fire coming with great speed, they understood the forest fire to be fierce and unsurmountable. Insurmountable means that they could not overcome, they were doomed. Surrendering to Hari, the remover of all distress, he who is also called Krishna, the bestower of supreme ecstasy, approaching him for shelter, they said, please protect us. Sabala means together with Shri Balaram. So they were saying that Balaram may also assist. They approached Krishna in the same mood as person disturbed by death. This is stated by the exemplification of their speaking in fear and distress. And this certainly implies the absence of fear and death of the cowherd boys. Because the verse says, the boys then approached Krishna and Balaram for shelter, just as those who are disturbed by fear of death approach the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So they approached him as a person who was dying, but not in the same way, because they weren't actually afraid. They were with Krishna. So what is there to fear? When Krishna is so close, they experience so many times. Even that morning, they experienced the power of Balaram. So what is there to be afraid of when Balaram was compared to the moon? He is present along with Krishna. How wonderful. So, as if they were afraid. But they were always calling out to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, read commentary on text 8. from Srila Vishvanatha Thakur. Remembering that Karya Muni said, "This boy will protect you from all dangers." The coward boys asked Krishna why this was happening. The phrase Gopa Sagava, cowards and cows, and also can also be read as Gopa Smagava, the cows and certainly the cows, and as Gopas at Sagava, the coward boys with the cows. It's interesting. So everyone was simply approaching Krishna and asking Krishna for shelter. And this is what they said. Text, very text 9 and 10. Krishna, Krishna, Mahavira, Erama Moha Vikrama, Tavachnina Dayamanam, Pranamam Stratum Artata. O Krishna, Mahavira, your most powerful one, and O Ram, Amoha Vikrama, whose prowess is never thwarted. Dava Agni, this forest fire. Dahyamanam, we are being burnt. Prapanam, when we are surrendered to you. Trata Marata, please save us. So the cowboy boys said, O Krishna, Krishna, most powerful one, O Ram, you whose prowess never fails, please save your devotees who are about to be burned by this forest fire and have come to take shelter of you. Text 10. Onam tvat bandava Krishna nasarantyava avasaditum vayame sarvadharmahya tvanatas tvat parayana. Krishna, certainly, your own friends shouldn't be destroyed, O Supreme O knower of the nature of all things. We have accepted you as our Lord, and we are so surrendered unto you. So Sanatan Goswami has a long comment on this text 9. Mahavira, he says, your most powerful one. That is an address of Sri Krishna, who is great in power. Since by such cleverness of his, Pralamba was directly killed by the hands of his elder brother. And Amoha Vikrama. Amoha Vikrama, moreover, is an address of Sri Baladev, because he killed the great demon simply with one fist. Thus the coward boys state that how their lordships are capable of delivering them. And Sanatan Goswami comments on the next verse. Having then first offered their entreaty, their praying to both of them, Krishna and Balaram, on account of their natural sentiment of friendship, because such is appropriate for that moment. But since they are afflicted by fear, they are now addressing Krishna particularly because of their special affection for him and because of appreciating his power, his most special. The coward boy expressed they do not deserve to experience any suffering, what then to speak of being devoured by a forest fire? The idea is, we should not be allowed to suffer this pain. They proved how they are his friends, with words beginning with Vayam. The word he is in this sense, or the word but is used to make more specific what was stated previously. This they are saying, even those who those who did not have any kind of sort of relationship with you should not suffer destruction, whereas we are your intimate devotees. Therefore the idea is we are incapable of abandoning your lotus feet. And this you know very well. You know very well, as they state. You know the dharma of svabhava, the nature of all persons. We are not capable of abandoning you. How is it that we are in this predicament? Text 11. Shishuka vacha vacho nisamya kipranam bandhunam bhagavanare nimila yatama bhasta lochana nit abhasata. Sukadeva Goswami said, hearing these pitiful words from his friends, the Supreme Lord Krishna told them, just close your eyes and do not be afraid. It's interesting, that is what rabbits do. They simply close their eyes. A tiger is chasing them and they close their eyes. So that is a foolish thing, as if ignoring what the problem is going to solve it. But you won't see it until the tiger eats you and tears you to pieces. But here Krishna is telling the cowboys, he's just telling them, you just close your eyes. Do not be afraid that... This was Krishna's order to them. And they were fully taking shelter of Krishna. They were fully surrendered to Krishna. This was the right thing to do because it was Krishna's order. When Maya tells us to close our eyes going on, forget that we are going to die, to follow that is foolish because it doesn't stop the cause of causing its effect. That didn't stop the tiger from devouring us. But when Krishna, amidst whatever danger is present, says, close your eyes, then that is a perfect order. Following it brings the perfect result. No, text 11. No, purport. This verse clearly reveals the simple, sublime relationship between Krishna and his pure devotees. The absolute truth, the Supreme Almighty Lord, is actually a young blissful cowherd boy named Krishna. God is useful and his mentality is playful. When he saw that his beloved friends were terrified of the forest fire, he simply told them to close their eyes and not be afraid. Then Lord Krishna acted as described in the next verse. But Sanatana Goswami comments, by his nature the Lord is the remover. Hari means one who takes away of all distress, is also Bhagavan. Bhagavan Bandhunam Bhagavan Hari. Hearing his friends, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari is also Bhagavan, either to exhibit his unlimited qualities of affection for his devotees in this specific incident. Having heard the words of his friends, which were pitiful, he said, just close your eyes. Out of his tendency to enjoy novel pastimes, special, unique, wonderful, unique pastimes. The factual meaning is as follows. Because these cowherd boys are under the control of their exclusive affection for me, they consider my welfare and they do not consider their own welfare more important than their own lives. Therefore, if they see me drinking the fire, what I'm about to do, out of fear for danger to me, they will enter into the forest fire, and for that reason I must drink it, unobserved by them. So he's saying here, yeah, what can I do? Krishna says, I must bring the fire, but I don't want them to see it, because then they think that this will cause me pain, and they will enter the fire, because they don't want me to bear any pain. That's more, yeah, anyway. So previously, but all right, but then we can say previously, he did not speak like this to Nanda Maharaj. He did not speak to this like Nanda Maharaj and the others because of referential feelings towards them. So that was just the second forest fire swallowed in the last few days. Why didn't he tell them? Because the same feeling, because the same thing, it was the same thing, but because of the feelings of affection and fear must have been there when he swallowed the fire in the presence of the Vrajavasis. But how could he tell Nanda Maharaj, close your eyes? How could he order his father? That would be completely disrespectful, because his mood is that of a coward boy, despite of his unlimited Asintya Sakti and his unlimited pastimes. He still maintains the mood of being Nanda Nandana and Yasoda Nandana and the friend of the coward boy. So, because he doesn't have reference, because they are just friends, and it is befitting that he just plays in such a way with them. Such is the explanation of Sanatana Goswami. Or else, he says, another explanation, he spoke this to bring them invisibly back to Bandiravan and wander away, for the purpose of playing a trick on them. But Krishna, after saying, close your eyes, may be questioned, O most clever one, how can the fire be driven away simply by closing our eyes? To this Krishna replies, don't fear, I will protect you. Now, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur on text 11 says, Krishna thought, the boy should not see me swallowing the fire. It should be done without anyone seeing. Since my friends are so hot and tired, I should place them under the cool shade of the beautiful Bandira tree. After considering in this way, Krishna said, just close your eyes and don't be afraid. The coward boys replied, you must be joking. How can we escape from the forest fire just by closing our eyes? Krishna said, do not fear. Today I will use another means to protect you. So another reason why Krishna said, close your eyes. Because he was remembering that previously, Krishna was thinking, when I was younger, but I had eaten some dirt, and Balaram and the other coward boys told Mother Yasoda, and I got in trouble after that, Krishna was thinking. Yeah. So, what if they are going to say that I ate a fire? Therefore he said, close your eyes. I don't want you to see this. Text 12. Text 12. So, Tateti militakstesu. Yes?
I'm sorry, I see there's a little differences between Sanat Goswami commentary on this and Jiva Goswami commentary on this. I don't know if you noticed, Maharaj.
Yes, there are different commentaries, so, but that do you have Jiva Goswami's commentary?
Yeah, I think I have Kama Sandava here.
Kama Sandava.
Yeah, Kama Sandava by Jiva Goswami. A little bit different. But the one you give is little sweeter, different. approach.
Okay. Can discuss that at the end?
All right, Maharaj. All right, Maharaj. I
Text,
thought you have it. Okay.
yeah, that Tateti militakshesu Bhagavan Achnim Ulpanam Pitvamukena Takshichat Yogadisa Vyamoshayat. All right, the boys replied, and immediately closed their eyes. Then the Supreme Lord, the Master of all mystic power, opened his mouth and swallowed the terrible fire, saving his friend from danger. But the coward boys were suffered from extreme fatigue, hunger and thirst, and were about to be consumed by a terrible forest fire. All this is indicated by the word Kitchrat. So, Sanatana Goswami says, Tateti means so be it, but it may be questioned, how did he drink such fire through his transcendental mouth? This is answered by the word Jagadis, meaning the controller of the special inconceivable opulences. In other words, by his potency, the fire became simply a mouthful of some beverage. He saved them in a special way by bringing them back to Bandiravan. Krishna was thinking, because of the love I have for these boys, I will not refrain from doing anything in order to demonstrate to Brahma and others his love for the young friends. He enacted the imitation of drinking of forest fires, but he made it into a cool beverage. So Krishna wanted a cool beverage, and it became a cool beverage. Text 13. So. Text 13. Tata sate ksinun milya punar bandiram apitaha nisanya vismita asan atmanam kasamoshita. The coward boys opened their eyes and were amazed to find not only that they and the coward boys had been saved from the terrible fire, but they had all been brought back to the Mandira tree. Sridhar Swami comments. This is Sridhar Swami. They were brought to Bandira Vat, the tree, the banyan tree. In an instant, and they opened their eyes, they became amazed. After having carried us on his own shoulder, Shidam and others of his coward boy friends, who joined the sport of the Lord, then exhibited his personal opulence by drinking the forest fire. Sanatana Goswami comments. Then immediately after drinking, the coward boys, having returned to Bandira, without then seeing and placed where they were before, they opened their eyes all at the same time, either by the Supreme Lord or else on their own initiative. Bandira is the name of the Vat, the banyan tree, Bandira Vat, which is famous throughout the world, located on the southern bank of the Yamuna in the northwest direction from the Shiva temple. We go Pishvar Shiva temple in Vrindavan. And the Munya forest is south of that, at a distance of 5 kroches. A kroch is 2 miles, so 10 miles. He transported them 10 miles. Both places should be understood. Both Parasar and Vaishampayan agree that on the very same day the pastimes of the Talavan and Mandira forest were performed. And we have also the description in Sri Harivamsa of Bandira within Vrindavan. After all, it would have been necessary on that very day for the countless coward boys and cows to cross once again the Yamuna, which would have been impossible to go back and forth. So that's the explanation of Santam Goswami. Now we have still comments of Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur and Jiva Goswami on this verse. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. When the cowherd boys were asked by Krishna to close their eyes, this is what some of them thought. My dear young friends, Krishna knows very well the means of counteracting fire, poison and so on. He uses gems, mantras, magic herbs and so on. These things, moreover, cannot be done without secrecy, tantras, mantras, etc. Thus, if we simply close our eyes, that will be privacy. Krishna is addressing such doubts in their minds. Therefore, let us hold our eyes tightly shut. Saying that they shut their eyes as stated in the verse beginning with the word tata. Bhagavan means he who is endowed with great powers of opulence. Drinking that fire, although fierce, having developed a thirst for it, since it would have been impossible for him to act in contradiction to his desire. If he did not want to drink it, he would not drink it. And unless he was thirsty, he would not desire to drink. And if he would not desire to drink, if he wouldn't drink it. Actually, he had no thirst. No, he had a thirst to drink the forest fire. So Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he had a thirst to drink the forest fire. But that fire became afraid and turned into an extremely cooling, fragrant, sweet-tasting drink, and it became a mere mouthful in the palm of his hand. Then the master of all mystic power drank it within his mouth. By this we can understand that this potency of Yoga Maya manifested itself and said to Krishna, for these devotees whose heart is saturated with loving affection for you, remembering this event of you having to drink the forest fire would be intolerable, because they love you more than anyone else, and that would give them pain, and you don't want them to experience any pain. Therefore, covering the palm of his hand, she herself drank the fire in her mouth. So here, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur said, no, it was Yoga Maya who drank the fire in her mouth. Because of him being the Lord of Yoga Maya, she took the opportunity to become the assistant in their drinking. Or else, Sanatana Goswami says, it may be questioned what is the means by which she could have drunk the fire through his mouth. This is replied by the word yoga disha, where yoga means is potency or opulence. The dictionary gives that definition. So from the trouble due to entering the impenetrable forest and suffering thirst, fatigue, and so on, and immediately bringing them to Bandiravan and thus save them. In this way, Krishna says, my dear friends, I executed the counteraction of the great fire. Now you can again open your eyes. Thus addressed by Krishna, they opened their eyes and finding themselves saved, and also the cows became amazed. Also the cows became amazed. This is the proper order of ideas. That is what Sanatana Goswami says. Now we will hear Jiva Goswami. He comments, he asked them to close their eyes, and he assumed a great form like a cloud. That's another vision. Jiva Goswami, he assumed a great form like a cloud, and with the mouth of that cloud, he drank the forest fire. And the rain cloud extinguished it in that way, the forest fire. So that's These acharyas have different opinions, but they all explain it in such a way that the devotees who love Krishna will not experience any pain. That's the point. Any pain. Like Sukadeva Goswami explains certain things to Maharaj Pariksit. He didn't want to tell the pastime of Kali in full because he didn't want to experience the fear and the pain that the residents of Vrindavan were experiencing when Krishna was held tightly in the grip of the coils of Kaliya. That caused those devotees pain, and that would cause Maharaj Pariksit pain. So he told it in brief, first in one sentence. Then Maharaj Pariksit inquired more, and Sukadeva Goswami had to tell the whole thing. That's what happened. Text 14. Krishnasya yoga viryam tat yoga mayanubhavitam tavachner atmana kshemam vikshate meniremaram. When the cowboys saw that they had been saved from the forest fire by the Lord's mystic power, which is manifested by his eternal potency, they began to think that Krishna must be a demigod. Purport. The coward boys of Vrindavan simply loved Krishna as their only friend and exclusive object of devotion. To increase their ecstasy, Krishna displayed to them their mystic potency and saved them from a terrible forest fire. The coward boys could never give up their ecstatic loving friendship with Krishna. Therefore, rather than considering Krishna to be God, after they saw his extraordinary power, they thought that perhaps he was a demigod. But since Lord Krishna was their beloved friend, they were on the same level with him, and thus they thought, then if he's a demigod, we must also be demigods. So in this way, Krishna's coward friends became overwhelmed with ecstasy. So, yes, of course Krishna is Rasaraj. He wants to increase the ecstasy of his devotees. Text 15. Kasani vaktya sayani sarama janardana venam viranayam gostam agat kopera bishtuta. Translation. It was now late in the afternoon, and Lord Krishna, accompanied by Balaram, turned the cows back toward home. Playing his flute in a special way, Krishna returned to the coward village in the company of his coward friends, who chanted his glories. We have a commentary here. Slavish vanaf Bhakti-Thakur, text 15. He speaks about the word Janardan. Janardan suggests two things. That Ardan means pain and request. So Krishna caused pain Ardana to the residents, Jana, of the forest when he decided to return home. Being anxious to meet the residents of Jana of Raj, Krishna made a desire to request Ardana, him to come home and rise in their hearts. Janardan, who pained the forest dwellers by leaving them, and who caused the Vajravas to request his return, entered the village playing a special tune on his celebrated flute. Now we'll read the last text of this chapter, text 16. Gopinam Paramananda Ashit Govinda Darshane Shanam Yugasatam Iva Yasam Yena Vinabhavat. The young gopis took the great pleasure in seeing Govinda. In seeing Govinda come home. Since for them even a moment without association seemed like 100 ages So, from this verse we learn that when it was time to go home, all the residents of the forest were practically crying. Now he's going to leave. And they would wait eagerly for Krishna's return the next day. Then it would be the time for the residents of the village to rejoice when they would see Krishna coming back. At 4 in the afternoon they would all go outside and see and look for Krishna coming and the cows. Here in this verse the mood changes, because before we heard Krishna enjoying with the cows, Sakyaras with the cowherd boys, and even Sakyaras with Balaram. Because when Balaram had killed Pralambasur, he was embraced and they enjoyed the ecstasy of their brotherly affection. And we have learned previously about the love of the parents of Krishna, of these senior Gopas and Gopis. And now in Krishna's Pauganda Lila, we will get the first hint of Krishna's dealing with the Braja Gopis. A moment not seeing Krishna appeared for the Gopis as 100 years. This gives a hint of how much the Gopis were in love with Krishna. A moment appeared like a Yuga Satam, 100 years. A blinking of the eyes, as in the words of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, appeared as so many years. Can we imagine such love? Not really. Not at all. Next chapter will describe the stage in which the Gopis' love for Krishna takes place. More about a description of Vrindavan. The next chapter will be dedicated to the Purvarag of the Gopis, the love of the Gopis, and what their conscience was like during the time of separation, when Krishna was in the forest herding the cows with the cowboy friends. So this is the coming back of Krishna. Coming back of Krishna to the forest. And chapter 21 will describe their separation. We'll read the purport now from verse 16. After saving the cowherd boys from the blazing forest fire, Krishna saved the cowherd girls from the blazing fire of separation from him. The Gopis, headed by Srimati Radharani, have the greatest love for Krishna, and even a single moment's separation from him seems like millions of years to them. The Gopis are the greatest devotees of God, and their specific pastimes with Krishna will be described later in this work. And the commentary of Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti. Although everyone was blissful when Krishna entered the village, Mother Yasoda's bliss was outstanding because of her intense parental affection. This was described in chapter 14, verse 47. Verse 14. So, let's go back to that verse. Verse 14. And it says 47. Yeah, I read the verse. Lord Krishna's transcendental body was decorated with peacock feathers and flowers and painted with forest minerals, and his bamboo flute loudly and festively resounded. As he called out to his calves by name, his cowherd boyfriends purified the whole world by chanting his glories. Thus Lord Krishna entered the cowherd pasture of his father Nanda Maharaj, and the sight of his beauty at once produced a great festival for the eyes of all the cowherd women. That's what's referred to here. Now, in the verse describes the extreme bliss of the Vraja gopis, headed by Radha. So the other verse was a description of parental affection. So, in terms of both quality and quantity, the gopis' love was supreme. Parama means there was nothing beyond it. The uncommon quality of one particular gopi is described here. This gopi experienced a moment, ksanam, of separation, vina, from Krishna as 100 millenniums, yuga satvamiva. To experience a moment as 100 yugas is the quality of Adiruddha Mahabhav, the highest state of prema, attained after proceeding to Rati, Prema, Sneha, Mana, Pranaya, Raga, Anurag and Mabhav. According to Ujjvala Nilamani, only such gopis such as Radha possess this type of Mabhav. The word Ksanam is neuter instead of its regular masculine gender, because this is the traditional usage. So this is the end of the pastime, but I do not want to just let it go. I want to go again to it with you, but through the narration of Kavikarnapuri. And I recorded it from Bhurijan Prabhu. He relates it very nicely. We will hear his narration of Kavikarnapuri's account, the 10th canto, this chapter 18 and 19. So I will play the recording and you will be able to hear it. I will put off my earphones, because the earphones are recording the sound, and I put it on the recorder here. So it's starting now. Put it on.
One summer day, the brilliantly powerful brothers, Krishna and Balaram, surrounded by their associates and displaying wonderful grace and beauty, came to Bandiravan to enjoy pastimes. The moment the Lord desired to enjoy a particular pastime, all the necessary paraphernalia automatically appeared. Nourished by eating the ever-fresh green grass, and satisfied by drinking the crystal-clear water from the valleys of Giriraj Govardhan, the cows relaxed peacefully in the dense shade of the banyan trees. The gopas wore garlands of freshly blossomed malika flowers and natural earrings made from shirisha flowers. They tied garlands of kurchi flowers in their hair. Adorned with these attractive, fragrant flowers, the two brothers, Balaram and Damodar, played happily with their friends. One boy sang in a very sweet voice. Some boys played musical instruments while others danced. Sometimes Krishna vibrated his flute while Balaram danced. At other times, Krishna danced to the singing of Balaram and the singing of his friends. In a melodious tone, Krishna called the gopas, Oh, my brothers, now stop your dancing, because we're going to play a new game. While running to meet their friends, the gopas replied, Oh, Damodar, what sort of game do you want to play? Krishna said, Listen, let us divide ourselves into two parties. One party will go with the powerful Balaram, and the other party will side with me. Thus Krishna divided his friends into two parties in order to hold a contest of strength. The boys in Balaram's party followed him like loyal soldiers, and the other boys accompanied Krishna. The losing party had to carry the victors upon their backs. Krishna's party lost. And even though Krishna carries the whole universe within his belly, he had to carry Sri Dhamma on his shoulders. Under the influence of time, Pralambasura, the deceitful one, disguised himself as a coward boy and secretly mixed with Krishna's friends. Being defeated in the contest, Pralambasura had to carry the victorious Baladeva, who looked extremely enchanting and effulgent with sandalwood paste daubed on his golden white body. And taking Balaram upon his shoulders, the demon carried him to the edge of the Bandira forest. Pralambasura, thrilled with the thought, I have accomplished my mission. Like a thief, I have broken all the rules of the game, and I have stolen a valuable jewel. At first, Balaram was amazed at the extraordinary power of his carrier, but then he instantly understood the situation. Smiling mildly, Balaram called out to his playful younger brother, "Oh, Damodar, hey Manoram, just as insanity robs of one's intelligence, this demon is trying to kidnap me. Oh, you of infallible willpower, what should I do now? Hey, relisher of mellows, without hesitating any longer, please give me proper instructions." Krishna felt somewhat amused to see and hear all of this. Then, in a thundering voice, he assured Baladev, "Give up your fears. Why are you submitting to illusion? Just remember your own divine power and slay this demon." Using his unrivaled strength, which far exceeded the power of thunderbolts, that Indra uses to cut mountains, the wings off of mountains, Balaram, the elder brother of Madhusudan, smashed the demon's head into little pieces with his fist. With tremendous power, the Lord drove the demon to the kingdom of Yama, and before departing, the demon assumed a huge, grotesque form. The Bprs thought that Balaram, whose complexion is whiter than fresh camphor, looked like the full moon sitting on top of the dome-like covering of the universe as he sat upon the demon's shoulders. The demon's body had a dark, smoky color, but due to profuse bleeding, his hideous body now looked like a cluster of clouds in the reddish sky at sunset, covered completely in blood. Pralambasura slowly fell to the ground, and while falling, he appeared like the sun setting behind the Vindhya hills, which is covered with red ashok flowers. The splendid demigods, who are expert in glorifying others, showered flowers on the head of Balaram to celebrate his victory over the demon. The notorious demon named Pralamba had displayed a great tantric magic, but eventually he perished under the fierce blows of Baladev, whose chariot bears the symbol of a palm tree. In front of everyone, Balaram accepted the name, humbly, the name of Pralambagna, one who removes sins from the heart, honorably bestowed upon him by Lord Indra. Thereafter, Balaram met with his brother Damodar, who always gives joy to others and is dear to all the Gopas. Balaram was proud of his recent accomplishment. and he felt unlimitedly blissful within his mind. But he became confused upon seeing the bewildered faces of the cowherd boys when he rejoined Krishna, who was resting in the shade of the beautiful banyan tree named Bandiravat. Once upon a time, both Damodar, Balaram, Sridham, Sudam, Subal, and the other Gopas rested beside the Yamuna. The cows, attracted by fresh sprouted grass, wandered deep into a nearby forest named Munjatari. For no apparent reason, the birds sleeping in the trees suddenly startled, filled with fear, and they darted from the treetops when the cows entered the forest. Krishna, whose eyes are colored like pink lotus flowers, and who is the inner guide of all living entities, noticed that the Gopas had become apprehensive about the safety of the cows. In a mood of love, Krishna compassionately addressed them. "Hey friends, look, where have our cows gone? Only the light of happiness shines in this forest full of birds and deer. So there is really no need to worry about the cows. Nevertheless, since we cannot see any of them right now, let us go find the cows, and let us rejoice again in their company." After the beautiful Lord spoke, the Gopas, who were expert in herding cows, looked for partially chewed grass, fresh hoof prints in the soil, and any other signs of the cow's movement. They began to search for them, and following these signs, they walked through the densely foliated forest, and reaching the end of their desire to search any longer, the cowherd boys became doubtful and apprehensive. They worried about the safety of the cows. They resembled people who became full of distress and lamentation after not finding any happiness at all in life. Suddenly, the Gopas saw that there was a powerful forest fire, devouring all the dry reeds and grass in its path. Their eyes began to burn from the blustering, hot winds generated by that fire. Overwhelmed with sadness and overwhelmed with anxiety, the cowherd boys looked at each other with eyes that were filled with tears. Their movements resembled a bewildered man who prays when facing difficulty. Not finding the cows, the Gopas just kept thinking about them. Meanwhile, the cows, seeing no sign of their master, no escape from the fire, and no hope for survival, those cows began crying out in fear. Upon returning to the Bandiravat tree, the Gopas reported the results of their search to Krishna. And Krishna responded by promising to personally save the cows from imminent death. Although Krishna is the Supreme Brahman, and although Krishna is a Chintamani gem fulfilling the desires of all, he assumes the form like an ordinary human being. He ran quickly to the Matavali forest, and he summoned the cows with a sweet tone from his flute. Then he called them individually with his melodious voice. Hey, 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 hey Dhavalike, hey Chandani, hey Nandani, hey Mukti, hey Indu Tilake, hey Kastori, hey Kandora Purike, hey Pinge, hey Rangani, hey Dumale, hey Kanjalike, hey Shame, hey Ketuki, hey Chandrake, hey transcendental vibration of Krishna's magnificent Murli enchanted the entire universe, and it enchanted and attracted the cows. Hearing the gentle sound of Krishna's sweet flute reassured the cows of their imminent rescue. Overwhelmed with joy, the cows eagerly awaited for Krishna. But since they were trapped in a ring of fire, they could not see he who would save them. In desperation, they cried out in response to Krishna's call. Their voices choked with fear. The cows continually vibrated a piteous "Mba, Mba, Mba." Though far beyond the comprehension of munis, of jnanis, personalists, Krishna is easily seen by his pure devotees. And hearing the wailing of the cows in the distance, Nandanandana, Halada, and their Gopa friends felt reassured that they were nearby. The brilliant effulgences and radiant smiles of the cowherd boys dispelled the deep darkness of the forest as they rushed towards the cows. The rising tidal wave of jubilation cleansed all anxiety from their bewildered minds. Then, by the arrangement of Providence, the boys found the cows standing helplessly, unprotected, in the middle of a blazing fire. Alas, alas, look how they are suffering. They are in great danger. Our cows are close to death. The greatly distressed cows immersed their minds in thoughts of Krishna while staring at him with shining, tear-filled eyes. And being the limitless ocean of compassion, Krishna felt very much aggrieved to see their agonized condition. The raging flames of the fire reached so high into the sky that even a torrential downpour could not extinguish them. Before immediately swallowing that uncontrollable forest fire, Krishna, whose face is incomparably beautiful, he addressed his followers. "Oh friends, just close your eyes. Forget about this illusion and be happy again." The cowherd boys, their long hair attractively covering their shoulders, closed their eyes, while Krishna displayed one drop of his unlimited opulence. Krishna Chandra, who can do anything, held his cupped hands to his lotus mouth, and he drank the forest fire as if it was liquid nectar. It appeared that his majestic power personified had swallowed the fire. Usually, it takes a torrential downpour to stop a forest fire. But Krishna, however, who easily extinguishes the blazing fire of material existence, put out the fire with his sidelong glance. Out of compassion for the cows, Krishna saved them with a mere touch of his own energy. Krishna attracts worldly people to his transcendental pastimes by showing his majestic opulence from time to time. As one presses pulp to attract the essence, Krishna's pastimes reveal the essence of the absolute truth. This is not surprising, since Krishna is the supreme Parabrahman, the embodiment of all power, who energizes the sun, the moon, the fire. At the same time, he is full of variegated personal energies. In one moment, Krishna kills Bhakasura. The next moment, he relishes intimate pastimes with the gopis. Sometimes he covers his sweet personal aspect and displays the inestimable power of his unlimited majestic opulences. Beside acting as the resting place of Brahman, Krishna shelters all types of energies. Therefore, swallowing a tiny forest fire is an insignificant feat for such a wonderful personality as Krishna, who is the combined form of complete sweetness and complete majesty. What scholar would not become totally captivated when trying to understand the inconceivable truth of Sri Krishna? Inspired and blissful over the whole pastime, Brahma and the other demigods showered flowers from the celestial gardens. The flower shower appeared like the falling of an unlimited number of teardrops mixed with kajal. Krishna pleased the demigods by happily accepting their prayers. By the arrangement of Yogamaya, no one saw Krishna swallow the forest fire. Afterward, Krishna returned to the Gopas, who were relaxing with the cows in the cool, sweet shade of Bandiravat. Smiling mildly, Krishna said, "Now you understand why I asked you to close your eyes? Now, open your eyes and look at me." The Gopas opened their eyes and exclaimed, "Oh, look! What has happened? Did we go crazy? Where is that forest fire? Was it a dream? Somehow, we are just sitting here peacefully under the Bandiravat with the cows." Feeling astonished, the cowherd boys became silent. The cows felt happy and secure now that the forest fire was extinguished, and seeing Krishna, whose feet are the supreme objects of worship and the epitome, the topmost point of purity, the cows became overwhelmed with joy. The cows cried while repeatedly they licked and smelled the Lord's transcendental body due to their intense affection for him. Reciprocating with the cows, Krishna compassionately fondled the cows with his delicate pinkish palm of his lotus hand.
So this is the poetic rendition of Kavikarna Puri on these two chapters, so beautifully presented by Puricharan Prabhu. So, any questions, comments, please? Yeah, Mother Sitaram.
Maharaj, I have a comment on Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur's commentary on the 14th verse. It was just so amazing that these boys are completely oblivious of Krishna's supreme position. And they think that he is a demigod, and since we are his friends, we also are demigods. And thinking like this, they're overwhelmed with bliss. So I just felt that this is so amazing, this Brajvasis, completely oblivious of Krishna's supreme position.
Yeah, Krishna is one of us, that's the Vrajavasis, that's their mood. But they only know Krishna, nothing else. Thank you. Tribhuvanath Prabhu, please.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Maharaj, I was looking at this. I have a particular concern when Krishna is asking, the cowherds to close their eyes. So I want to ask you this question, Maharaj. Krishna is the supreme personality, of Godhead. Is he really honest?
Well, he is honest, but he's honest in his covered position. That he's not aware of his supremacy as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. because one may say he's not aware, and then he does this features. He eats the fire, so he must know it. But no, because it's all an arrangement by Lila Sakti. It's energy that organizes the pastimes, and so this is, as Cynthia Sakti, we cannot understand that, but he does that in such a way. He's covering himself to his Lila Shakti and his energies, because he wants to experience that love of the Vrajavasis. And this Owen reference, it's not going together, and he knows that, and therefore this arrangement is made. But it's astonishing. You make that comment, and it's an astonishing fact. And that is where those who are non-devotees cannot understand this. They reject that. Because they have not studied the first 9 cantos of the Bhagavatam. They don't have a sambandha with Krishna. They don't know who Krishna is, and they don't have a relationship with him. But to understand that requires this confidential relationship. Very interesting. Thank you for that comment.
Maharaj, I see that this 10th canto is actually very essential and is very confidential, because here we can see a glimpse of how we are being dealt with. For instance, Krishna is asking them to close their eyes. We are also being asked to close our eyes somehow, and we are into some different moods. So at the end of the day, we might survive the mood, we might not survive the mood, based on intervention. Maharaj, you understand? I don't know if Maharaj understands the question. Krishna asked them to close their eyes, and they close their eyes. So we are being asked also to close our eyes. Sometimes we may survive the mood by, this is just a dream. Sometimes we may not be able to survive the mood. So who do we blame? Krishna has asked us to close our eyes.
Yeah. Anyway, what can I comment on it? Thank you. Mother Prabhupada, Priya, please.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. So I really like the way Sanatana Goswami started off his commentary, that he's comparing the cows wandering off into the forest to conditioned souls who sort of wander off into the material world due to greed for sense gratification. And then as the cows end up in this place that's full of sharp grass and chains, and they're surrounded by forest fires, so we encounter so many difficulties here in forest fire material existence. But then in the next texts where, like in text 3, it's saying that Krishna felt repentant for having neglected the cows. So generally when we hear about this doesn't seem consistent with the analogy of the conditioned souls, because we don't usually hear that Krishna is in any way at fault for our being here in the material world.
Yeah, that's a nice point. Yes. It is Sanatana Goswami who yet extract that lesson for us to learn. That if you act for sense gratification, and then you end up in trouble. But then you have the other perspective. Krishna thinks himself a cowboy and is in that mood. And he's a Vaishya, he has to take care of the cows, and he neglected his duty. And if he feels like all the other cowboys, where are the cows? We are going to be chastised by, what will Nanda Maharaj say? Because he wants to experience this mood. So you have these 2 levels, different levels, instructions for us at one level, and on the other level, is the mode of love that Krishna wants to experience, and therefore he covers himself. He's got this the background completely. He absorbs his consciousness in this mood, because he wants it's rasa raj. He wants to experience this rasa, and so you have always these different levels. Now, these are only 2 levels. There may be other levels of understanding that, and to understand the scriptures and not be teared apart by these so-called contradictions, this both-mindedness of understanding these different levels is important. And that's also what we have learned from the hermeneutics course, you may remember. That's an important aspect, at least that's...
Very good.
Yes.
Very good point, Maharaj. Thank you. I had another question too. Whether
Singapore, thank you from, yeah.
whether when Krishna asked the boys to close their eyes, and they, in that situation, they have to put complete faith in Krishna, that they're in a very dire situation. And usually when we're in trouble, it's like we want to try to solve the problem. But Krishna's saying, no, just close your eyes, that I'm going to take care of it. So could we also use the similar analogy that conditioned souls, okay, before that, I was sort of like trying to follow this analogy that Sanatana Goswami starts in some ways throughout the pastime. So first of all, when Krishna finds the cows, so they're calling out, he's calling out to them, and they're calling out to him. So that could be like Krishna sends his devotees to come to find us, like devotees like Srila Prabhupada come to this world to call out to us. And then when we learn the process of calling out to Krishna through chanting his holy names, then we call back to him. So then we can again meet Krishna. We can again be in the presence of Krishna through this process. So like with Krishna and the cows, there's this reunion there in the forest that, okay, they're together again. But then the forest fire comes. So even after being in the presence of Krishna, there can be difficulties. Like Maya attacks us, sometimes even harder after becoming devotees than before. So, but in that case, we just have to have complete faith in Krishna. So to me, that's what the closing of the eyes, it sort of like hit me that the closing the eyes was just like, okay, you're having some difficulty, but you don't need to do battle on your own. You don't need to try to solve this problem yourself. Just have faith in me and don't worry, and close your eyes and I'll take care of it. And that way, by putting our faith in Krishna and taking full shelter in Krishna, then Krishna takes us to a safe place. He ultimately takes us back to Godhead, like he transported the boys back to Andirala. Does that sort of work? Do you think that's a correct way of analyzing it?
I think that's one way of analyzing it. And it's certainly we can extract these lessons out of this pastime, for sure. But there are other ways of seeing it, that let's look at it at a level of rasa. If you look at that level, then the cowherd boys, they think, yes, Krishna is one of us, but he has these powers. He knows his mantras and so on, but these mantras are confidential. So, and they only work if it's privately done. So he wants to close our eyes. Let us close our eyes tightly. And then he can use his mantras and everything will be okay. So that's there. That's one of the comments that we have heard. And also on the level of rasa, yes, he does not want Mother Yasoda to know that he had eaten fire, because that will and it will give pain. It will give pain to the coward boys. So therefore they must close their eyes. So these are all different perspectives. But there is also on another level, and that's more on the level that you described, lessons we have to learn. That everyone in this material world closes his eyes. They don't want to see that they are going to die. And they live as they are going to live like forever. So they are like these rabbits that close their eyes. And that is also something. If we forget Krishna, we are closing our eyes for him. And we are absorbed in all things of this material world. And that's problematic. So many lessons to learn from one pastime. It's amazing. Thank you.
But I mean, could the closing of the eyes be mean that devotees put full faith in Krishna? You know, there's that verse from the Bhagavatam where it says that one who's totally surrendered to Krishna, even if he runs with the eyes closed, he won't trip or fall. You know, that it's kind of like you close your eyes, you just sort of like, you don't have to worry about anything anymore.
Yeah, they were in the presence of Krishna and they were not afraid because Krishna was there. He saved them even the same day from Pralambasura and so on, and the previous forest fire. So Krishna, we have faith in Krishna. And with great faith they closed their eyes. That is certainly that if you are in a dangerous position, mostly we don't close our eyes. But they did it because of their faith in Krishna. Thank you. Very nice point. That's Mother Dalita Pitamaya, please.
Hi, Krishna Maharaj. Even I have something to say about Krishna saying close your eyes and Maya saying close your eyes. In my childhood, we used to play a game called Krishna Says, Maya Says. So the teacher, she used to come in front of us and she used to make us stand vertically and she used to tell, Krishna says eat. And then we used to imitate like eating. And Krishna says sleep and we used to imitate like to sleep. And she used to go on fast. Krishna says clap. Krishna says jump. And suddenly she would say, Maya says stop. And if we stop the action, then we were out of the game. So in my childhood, I was not realizing what's the importance of this game. But today in our class, so I'm realizing what is the importance of why we have to listen to Krishna and why not to Maya. So I just recollected all this, my childhood memories, and I'm feeling so grateful and in a deep gratitude towards my parents that they brought me up in Krishna consciousness, and I'm feeling very fortunate to study with such exalted teachers and all such classmates. I'm feeling so grateful. Thank you so much.
Yeah, it's so merciful to be raised in Krishna consciousness. Very fortunate. Thank you for sharing. Pavitra Prabhu, please.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Maharaj, I have two questions. The first one is, what was the cause of the second forest fire?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that question, I heard only one opinion in the commentaries, and some say it was because it was a friend of Pralambasura, and he wanted to take revenge. That's the only comment I got on it.
Thank you, Maharaj. The second question is, in the first text, Sukadev Goswami said, while the cowherd boys were completely absorbed in playing, their cows wandered far away. They hungered for more grass, and with no one to watch them, they entered a dense forest. And in the commentary of Bolojan Prabhu, he was saying the cowherd boys and Balaram and Krishna, they were resting under the banyan tree when the cows went. Which one is correct?
Yeah, so it says in the verse, they hungered for more grass with no one to watch them, and they entered the forest. And in the, it says, yes, while the boys were absorbed in playing, that's the comment, the cows wandered far away into a dense forest, driven by their greed for more grass. Yeah, it's the same thing to me. That the comment and
Burujan's commentary said the boys were taking rest in the banyan tree.
Burujan's comments we said in the beginning. This part.
Yeah, the one recorded. We listened to the recording.
Yeah, that was. I only spoke on this first Sanatana Goswami's comment. Coincidentally, even though the Lord is acting in an ordinary way, another super worldly pastime occurred. Although they had been protected by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is close, but yet out of grateful sense enjoyment, the cows wandered away from him. And because of their acting whimsically, they experienced suffering. Such is understood as unspoken implication. Nevertheless, because of the greatness of his mercy, very soon their welfare will be assured, as we will see further on. So that is the same thing, but if we can also go to the comment, but yeah, there is no purport on text one. It's all the same to me. I don't see. Maybe something was misunderstood or something. Okay. Mother Purnamasi, please.
Hare Krishna. Closing the eyes could mean that we fully concentrate, get observed in Krishna. Probably while the boys closed their eyes, they were fully focusing on Krishna. And this is for us as well. I have experienced that quite a lot, almost every day, whatever. Fully concentrate on chanting, and Krishna word is no different from Krishna. And so when I chant, whatever problem comes was there, I don't waste my time. So I start chanting, and when I finish it, take 1.5 hours to 2 hours. It doesn't seem to be that problem bothers me, or if it's there or not. Same, it takes nearly 1.5 hours to 2 hours worshipping deity, because I have to concentrate very much on decorating Radharani and Krishna every day. And then whatever the problem is, it doesn't come first. The deity come first, my chanting come first. So that means we are closing the eyes and focusing on Krishna. And then problem, it doesn't seem to stay. That has been my experience.
Thank you for sharing that. I had a similar experience when I was on the operation table before the surgery. I was also closing my eyes and focusing my mind on Radha and Krishna. And it was very nice.
Yes, I know you had operation, but I have been as well practiced for 45 years, and a lot of patient. I worked in UK. A lot of patient sort of maybe I had a DT there, and I was used to do 16 miles. A lot of patients used to wait for me instead of others, doctors. So I said one day, I have to go home at 7 every day. Why I have to go home at 7 every day? I have to worship, I have to do Aarti at 7:30 because I have 3.5 feet DT. So what struck me, and these people this patient was waiting for me, but I have already said I won't see a patient after 7. So when she said, look, your patient, there are a few more extra patients for you. I said, I'm not a god, and walked out. So that word, I'm not a god, brought me up to Vrindavan. I'm in Vrindavan now. Because that I said that way. This first time I really meant the God. You know, I'm not a God. I said it came through my heart. Why these people are waiting for me? I'm not a God, and that struck. And next, I could not work, or I resigned. I had to. I'm in Vrindavan now, and luckily I have given service to my spiritual master, who has helped me so far.
That's very sweet. Thank you very much.
Thank you, thank you.
So, Tribhuvnath Prabhu, maybe last comment?
Thank you, Maharaj. But I see the closing of eyes is one of the five meditators' principles of conflict resolution, and it signifies in that principle that when ostrich dig the ground, he buries his head inside. So there are some issues that cannot be resolved, is swept under the carpet. So closing of eyes signifies the ostrich being dug his head and dug the ground and put his head in. This is one of the principal means. Just a comment.
Ostrich mentality instead of rabbit. Okay, thank you. Mahasringa Prabhu, you want to add something, please?
Yes, two things. First, I want to express my deep thanks to you because you exemplified a wonderful, great Vaishnav quality by putting on the tape of His Grace Gurujan Prabhu, which usually practically we don't see, and you have shown this. You have great appreciation for other preachers, and you are non-envious person. That is the practical example I am seeing. Second thing, this closing of the eyes. Actually, I have seen that whenever we close our eyes, also we are internally fearful, and we do open our eyes. We don't, just close. We are not confident. But these the friends and the Gopas, they were really, amazing, and they just followed what Krishna said. And had we been there, we won't just close the eyes. We will be, after 1 minute or 2 minutes, just peeping what is happening, maybe something special, or I can hear. So that is the difference, and they have the utmost complete confidence in the Krishna, and they are fully dependent. This is so inspiring. Thank you, Maharaj.
Yes, thank you for all your inspiring comments. I look forward to see you on Monday. I think on Monday at 11 a.m. First we have the class by Vihe-Bhaktivedanta Prabhu. We'll speak on 2 verses of the first canto, and we are looking forward to hear from him. So I'm thanking you for cooperation and sharing all these thoughts. That is what makes this course really useful for the churning in our heart and making spiritual advancement. It's great. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Hare
Prabhupada Goswami Maharaj ki jai.
Hare Bol.